Is the Gojo Clan powerful without the Six Eyes Limitless user? Are there any other hereditary techniques, or do they have anything else going for them? Let's talk about it. All right, so in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, there are three big clans when it comes to the movers and shakers and orchestrators of Jujutsu Society. And those are the Gojo Clan, the Zenin Clan, and the Kamo Clan. And they are in this position because of the power they wield. Not only quite literally in the form of curse techniques, but also in their political influence. And it's easy to see why these three came to power, because the Zenin Clan has things like projection sorcery and obviously the 10 Shadows. The Gojo Clan has the Six Eyes Limitless user, the god amongst men, and the Kamo Clan has blood manipulation. But what if the Gojo Clan didn't have the Six Eyes Limitless users? Would they still be strong? Do they have anything else going for them? Because we know that Six Eyes Limitless users are rare as is, only showing up once every 400 or so years. So how is the Gojo Clan maintaining their power and influence during those long absences? So let's answer this in a couple of parts. And first and foremost, yes, there are other curse techniques besides the Limitless that can pop up in the Gojo Clan. Now, we were never given any specific examples of other hereditary techniques, like the same way we saw not only the 10 Shadows, but also projection sorcery within the Zenin Clan. We don't have anything like that to point to, but like any sorcerer family or sorcerer bloodline, there are going to be multiple techniques, right? Even just unique techniques to a certain individual that aren't necessarily bloodline hereditary techniques. So Gojo has those just as much as any other sorcerer clan would have those, right? And specifically, we know that these other techniques exist because part of the rarity of somebody like Satoru Gojo, having both the Six Eyes and the Limitless, is that pairing of those two things, which implies the existence of previous Six Eyes users that maybe didn't have the Limitless and had some other form of technique. So yes, the Gojo Clan has other stuff, but nothing on the level of the Six Eyes and the Limitless. And if we just want to snap our fingers and say that they never had that and Six Eyes Limitless users would be stripped away from them entirely, then this is probably what we would be looking at. And I doubt the Gojo Clan would have even become one of the big three, because you need something like that to submit your power. It's partly right place, right time, like being in a powerful position when this society was constructed, which I'm assuming is the case for all three. And I also would assume that a Six Eyes Limitless user was in power back in the early days of this, whatever we want to say that was. Perhaps also a 10 Shadows user and the Kamo Clan. Sugiwara no Michizane might have been the first ever Six Eyes Limitless user and might have been responsible, at least by proxy, for the birth of the Gojo Clan. This is the guy that both Gojo and Yuta Okkotsu are related to. He's also one that would go on to become one of the three great vengeful spirits of Japan. And all of the big three clans might be related to one of the three vengeful spirits. It's something we've talked about before. And so the reason the Gojo Clan is one of the big three, even when it's hundreds of years between the presence of a Six Eyes Limitless user, is because they have that in their back pocket at all times. It's the biggest nuke in this society, right? It's kind of like a mutually assured destruction thing. If the Kamo or the Zenin tried to make too big of a move against the Gojo Clan, then it would basically be a ticking clock until the time when another Six Eyes Limitless user was born, and they would be able to do nothing to stop his retribution, unless they, tried to entirely wipe out the Gojo Clan, which, we're talking about severe war crimes at that point. You would basically have to break society entirely to do something like that. So I think that the Gojo Clan kind of rests upon the threat that they have this in their arsenal. They may not know when the next one will come up, but just the mere existence or chance of that enables them to keep this shroud of power, if you don't even want to consider it actual power. But then, of course, when someone like Gojo is born, it is very much actual power. But as I'm sure you could guess, this balance of power is extremely delicate and fragile, and the entire system could collapse at any moment. Even when we have a Six Eyes Limitless user currently alive, as soon as he got sealed, people started making moves, right? Gojo was labeled a criminal. Any of his associates were labeled criminals. The other power players in the society were immediately trying to grasp at that vacuum in power, right? And obviously this would depend on like the current states of society at any given time. during Jujutsu Kaisen as we saw it was a very tumultuous time. There were lots of people grabbing for power. And in fact, we didn't just see this with Gojo, right? And I won't give away any spoilers, but there are other times in the series where one of the three big clans like kind of has a lapse in power and has a show of weakness, and immediately the other two are trying to capitalize on this. So it's all very, very delicate, and Gojo quite literally acts as this balance to kind of prevent things from happening, and we see that quickly fall apart when he gets sealed. This whole dynamic is also why Gojo's life wasn't really his own, right? It's why he was stripped away from his parents after he was born in order to be groomed to be this tool for his clan. Like, he is the crown jewel. He represents them being able to have as much possible power and influence as they possibly could, right? Like, it's the Gojo clan's heyday when Satoru Gojo was born. And again, that just informs his entire character, right? The way that he had this distance from everyone else, always treated like more of a thing, a tool, a weapon than an actual person. So now let me circle this back around to the question that inspired this video. So shout out to freaky homosexual Raditz, incredible, who asked, do you think the Gojo clan was always strong without a Six Eyes Limitless user, or do you think they have other techniques like the Zenin? So they certainly have other techniques, but it is also certainly the case that the reason they are in the position they are in is because of those Six Eyes Limitless users. So they're not nothing without him, but they're just going to be like virtually any other run-of-the-mill sorcerer bloodline without the honored one as a part of it. And then Raditz asked me, do I think that Jujutsu Society became complacent during Gojo's lifetime because of his presence? And absolutely. We know that when Satoru Gojo was born, the balance of the world was altered. Literally, curses and curse users had to evolve and become stronger just because of his mere presence in the world. So whether or not we want to say it was like a conscious decision on an individual level within society, absolutely, like, sorcerers got complacent to some extent, right? Because you could have this kid to fall back on. And even Nanami mentioned it at one point after Haibara's death, being like, can't we just send Gojo on every mission? Like, he can do it all. So even if you have people that are still hardworking, determined, like still trying to give it their all in the pursuit of sorcery, on some level, there is an ease in the back of your mind. Well, it's like, oh, well, we've got Gojo. Like, he can handle it. And certainly on a meta scale, in the same way that curses and curse users were getting stronger, sorcerers were getting complacent. Maybe not necessarily weaker, but absolutely that was happening. And then finally, Raditz says, do you think it's possible to steal the Six Eyes or transplant them into somebody else, similar to the Sharingan from Naruto? And this is actually a subject I've made a video on before, so I will link it in my response to you. But the short answer is probably not, but check out my full thoughts on that, where we go into, things about binding vows and fate and all that stuff. But Raditz also says, if so, though, what technique do you think would benefit from it the most? And this is something I've also put out on videos before, like what technique would pair best with the Six Eyes. So check those out. But what I will say, it's generally going to be techniques that consume a bunch of cursed energy. That way you can capitalize on one of the main functions of the Six Eyes, which is their insane efficiency, right? So imagine somebody like Yorozu with the construction technique, which we know is a very taxing technique in terms of the amount of cursed energy it requires. If you paired the Six Eyes with that, good night. Anyways, that's going to do it for this one, y'all. Be sure to let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.